Smart home tech is confusing even in 2024, especially with all the protocols that devices use to communicate. This video will focus on the 5 main protocols used in smart homes today, those being Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, and Thread. So let's break them down one by one. Wi-Fi is first on the list, and this is by far the most common protocol. You can find Wi-Fi switches, plugs, bulbs, sensors, cameras, and virtually everything in between. These devices are also very plug and play because they connect directly to your home Wi-Fi router. You don't need a dedicated smart hub, unlike with other protocols, because your Wi-Fi router is standing in as your hub. Wi-Fi devices also have decent coverage of your home because they extend as far as your Wi-Fi signal. On top of that, these devices have a reasonably good response time, so there's very little delay between making a request and seeing the action carry out. Wi-Fi is also the best protocol for things like smart cameras because it can transfer large amounts of data required for video footage. This is something that other protocols just cannot do. Wi-Fi devices are also among the cheapest in the industry, but it's not all good news for Wi-Fi. The first major downside is that most home Wi-Fi routers can only hold around 30 or so devices before it begins to slow down the entire network. And once you account for phones, laptops, tablets, and TVs, it really doesn't leave you much room without upgrading your Wi-Fi router. The majority of these Wi-Fi devices also require internet access in order to work. So if you lose internet, you will also lose control of your home. This is because when you send an instruction to your Wi-Fi device, it first has to go through the manufacturer's cloud server where it can be processed before it's then sent back to your local network and the action is carried out. This extra step can also slow the response time of your devices because if the cloud server is being slow or unresponsive, that's going to translate to devices responding slower than they normally would. Finally, Wi-Fi isn't suitable for small wireless devices such as sensors because it consumes far too much power. Now, the next protocol is Bluetooth, and in contrast to Wi-Fi, the biggest benefit here is that it's very low power, and that makes it great for those small wireless devices like sensors and remotes. Using a hub is also entirely optional here. If you want to, you can connect a Bluetooth smart device directly to your phone or laptop, and from there you can control it directly and locally without any reliance on Wi-Fi or internet. There are some reasons to use a hub with Bluetooth though, and I'll get to that in a second. Bluetooth devices are also very affordable, and you can expect to pay roughly what you would pay for a Wi-Fi device. The biggest issue with Bluetooth though is its limited range. You pretty much have to be in the same room to be able to connect to it and control it, and the only way around that is to pair it with some kind of hub or smart speaker, but that would mean having to put those hubs or smart speakers in every room of your house, and that can get very expensive very quickly. Now, I should mention that Bluetooth is a mesh technology, so it is possible to chain devices together to extend the Bluetooth signal. However, Bluetooth mesh is very unreliable, and you don't really see it out in the smart home world because of this reason. There are simply better mesh protocols out there, and we will cover them on this list. The last thing I'll say on Bluetooth is that there just aren't as many devices, especially compared to Wi-Fi, so you will have a harder time finding what you need. Now we get to the more interesting protocols because these were designed specifically for use in smart homes. Let's get into Zigbee. The great thing about Zigbee is it covers just about every device type out there. I'm talking everything from plugs, sensors, bulbs, switches, and locks. It also works independently of your Wi-Fi network, so it doesn't clog up your router or slow down your internet. And in fact, it doesn't even require internet because it all runs locally. This gives you very fast response times and good reliability because you're not relying on a cloud server every time you make a request. Zigbee also has amazing coverage of your home because it's a mesh protocol. And unlike Bluetooth, it's a core feature of the protocol, and it actually works very, very well. Every Zigbee device in your network, as long as it's mains powered, will act as a repeater. This allows you to chain devices further away from your hub, and it gives you a much further reach than you could ever get with something like Wi-Fi. It's also a low power protocol, which again makes it great for small wireless devices, and you can expect battery life of up to 1 to 2 years. depending on the type of device. Zigbee is also a very affordable protocol, and while it might be slightly more expensive than Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, this difference is negligible for what it offers in comparison. And if you're willing to import Zigbee devices from places like China, you can get some insane deals on these devices, especially if you use sites like AliExpress. But there are some downsides to consider as well. Zigbee does require a hub, as I alluded to earlier. This Zigbee hub is what allows it to run separately from your Wi-Fi network, but it does mean you have to go out and buy this hub in order to make everything else work. And depending on which kind of Zigbee hub you buy, you may find that not all Zigbee devices can connect to it, so there are some compatibility issues you need to watch out for. I have a whole video on smart home hubs that goes into this topic in more detail, so that will be on screen now if you want to know more. The next protocol is Z-Wave, and this is a lot like Zigbee with a few subtle but important differences. Like Zigbee, Z-Wave runs locally, which means it doesn't require Wi-Fi or internet access, and it doesn't rely on a cloud server to process requests. And as a result, it has a very good response time. It also has excellent range because, like Zigbee, it's a mesh protocol, and this one also works very well. Unlike Zigbee, however, Z-Wave devices are 100% compatible. This is because all Z-Wave devices must go through a strict certification process, and this is why Z-Wave devices are considered to be the most reliable. This protocol also operates at a lower frequency than the ones we've discussed, so it doesn't suffer interference from Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Zigbee, which all operate on the same frequency. And this kind of thing is really important for reliability, especially if you have a lot of these devices in your home. As for power consumption, again, it's a low power protocol, very much in line with Zigbee. Now, as good as Z-Wave is, there are of course some downsides. The biggest, in my opinion, is that there are not nearly as many devices out there as you would hope, and this is unlikely to change given that this protocol has been around since around 2005. A Z-Wave setup also requires a Z-Wave hub, so just like with Zigbee, this is another expense that you have to account for. Now, remember when I said that Z-Wave devices are 100% compatible? Well, there is actually a caveat to that. In some countries, Z-Wave devices operate at a slightly different frequency, and these will not work with your existing devices. This regional incompatibility is something that most people won't have to worry about, but if you plan to import products to save some money, then it is something you should be aware of. And on the topic of money, Z-Wave devices are among the most expensive devices out there, and this is because of the certification process that these devices have to go through. Finally, let's talk about Thread. Thread is the newest smart home protocol, and it's only gained popularity in the last few years. You can almost think of this one as Zigbee Plus. It has a lot of the same characteristics. It works independently of your Wi-Fi network. It's highly responsive. It's a mesh protocol, so you can easily extend its range, and it's very low power. But where Zigbee relies on a single central hub, a Thread hub, which is technically called a border router, isn't a central component. In fact, a Thread network can have one or multiple border routers, and even if they all somehow failed at once, you would still maintain local control over your devices. Thread devices can communicate directly with one another, so it's a very flexible system and one that doesn't have a single point of failure. On top of all that, Thread can run on the new Matter standard, which guarantees 100% compatibility with other Matter devices. Despite being a much newer technology, Thread devices are still very reasonably priced, and in fact, you probably wouldn't pay much more than what you would expect to pay for Zigbee devices. You still need to go out and buy that Thread border router. While it's not technically necessary, a border router will allow you to connect to other networks like Wi-Fi, and it will unlock the full potential of the Thread protocol. Thread is also just as susceptible to interference as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Zigbee because they all operate on the same frequency. And as you might expect, there really aren't as many Thread devices out there just yet, but it is gaining momentum, so this could change in the near future. So with all of that said, which protocol should you use in your home? In theory, you really could use all 5 of these protocols at once, but if you're just starting out, it is a good idea to limit yourself to 1 or 2. This will make things a lot easier to set up, to manage, and to troubleshoot, and it will get you familiar with how all of this works before you dive into the deep end. As for which protocols to use, it really is just a matter of preference. I personally wouldn't use Bluetooth due to its limited range, and I wouldn't really recommend Z-Wave because there are notably fewer devices out there and it tends to be the most expensive option. Thread looks promising, but as it is a relatively new technology, I hesitate to recommend this as a starting point, at least right now. With that said, I really like Zigbee as a primary protocol. The only real downside with it is compatibility, but if you use a good universal hub, it will work with the vast majority of Zigbee devices. And for anything else, Wi-Fi is a decent backup protocol just to fill in any gaps on your Zigbee network. So I think that's a good place to leave it. But if you have any questions, I will be in the comments. If you haven't already, check out my video on smart hubs. It explains all the different types of hubs you can buy and the pros and cons of each, and it pairs really nicely with this video. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.